Hello, my name is Michael Coleman. Thank you for joining me. Today, I have for you an abbreviated PechaKucha that covers em dashes. In an article by Elizabeth Cook, written for Book Riot, Cook describes em dashes as the most adaptable and intuitive punctuation mark there is. Before going much further, let's start by examining how the em dash got its name. It's pretty simple actually. An em dash is the same length as a capital M. This graphic demonstrates the aesthetic differences between an em dash, an en dash, and a hyphen. Two popular authors who used the em dash were James Joyce and Emily Dickinson. James Joyce, due to a seething hatred of quotation marks, used the em dash to offset dialogue, whereas Emily Dickinson used the em dash within her work as a dividing mark in her poetry. I myself have a pesky history with em dashes. Aware of their potential, I once, and only once, tried to work one into my writing. The sentence, on the screen before you, drew the ear of the grader. In the margins of the document, the grader both rebuked my improper use of the em dash, as well as my improper formatting of the em dash. Before we dive into the proper and improper uses of em dash, let's begin with how to create one in Microsoft Word. This on the screen is one way to do so, but I'll walk you through an easier way. To create an em dash, type a word with no space after it. Then type 2 hyphens before finishing by typing another word. After that, hit the space bar and an em dash should appear. According to Merriam-Webster, the em dash can be selectively used in place of commas or parentheses. However, the writer must be careful and intentional when applying the em dash in this way, as its presence adds emphasis to the words contained within. When deciding whether to apply commas, parentheses, or an em dash, think about proximity. When the material is most closely related to what's around it, use commas. When the material is the furthest away, use parentheses. Reserve em dashes for material that occupies the middle ground between those two extremes. In addition to being used in place of commas and parentheses, the em dash can be used in place of the colon at the end of a sentence. Again, this is most effective when trying to convey added emphasis to the reader and should be applied selectively throughout your text. The final use of the em dash we'll cover today is its use in omissions. When you want to leave out letters in a word, typically in cases of profane language or when wanting to preserve anonymity, 2 or 3 em dashes used consecutively is an appropriate way to do so. The last piece of new information we'll be covering today is how to use em dashes in APA format. According to the 7th edition of the APA publication manual, you should not use a space before or after an em dash. The manual also notes your word processing software can be set to avoid this common error. To recap, em dashes can be used in place of commas, parentheses, colons, and to omit letters from a word. The em dash is most commonly used to place emphasis on material. Therefore, they should be used sparingly. Finally, there is no need to place a space before or after inserting an em dash. I wanted to end by providing an example of how one of my favorite authors uses the em dash in her work. It is important to remember the rules that govern em dashes are loose and allow the author to apply the mark creatively, free from the rigid boundaries of many other grammar marks.